It's official. Consumers saying they're down and out over pump prices that are out of sight. But it's not just gas. Food, clothes, college, healthcare, all way up. And someone here says, you think the sticker shock is bad now? Just wait. Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Buttner. This is Bulls and Bears. The Bulls and Bears this week, Gary B. Smith, Tobin Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, along with Todd Schoenberger and Susan Ox. Welcome to everybody. So, Todd, sticker shock is about to get worse?
Yeah, you got that right, Brenda. Look, food costs are up over 5% in a year. Some economists are predicting 25% increases just this year alone. Gas is up 6%. It continues to rise. It's not going to stop anytime soon. All of us need to be prepared. And the economy, the global economy, is at stake right now because of these higher prices.
Gary B., you seeing that same sticker shock, and does it worry you as much?
No and no.
What do you really think?
Well, look, if everything that every dollar that we made was spent on either food or gasoline, I'd be in Todd's corner. But, we spend our basket of spending is on a lot of things. It's on electricity. It's on natural gas. It's on dining out, for example. So overall inflation, even though we've been talking about it constantly, is still under 3%. As far as gasoline, I'll acknowledge Todd's point that it's up 7%. But inflation adjusted, we're back at 1920 levels. Plus, the percentage of GDP that energy is about 50% of what it was just 30 years ago. So could prices go higher? Yes. Will they be a little harmful? Perhaps, but I think people adjust. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, but back then, not everybody had the Model A and was using it to get to work, Gary B., so I'm not sure.
Good point.
Toby, take him on, because it is actually, we are seeing inflation, aren't we, in other things?
Well, yes, we are. Remember, we have core inflation and everything else, and maybe the core is lower, but of course you're kicking out food and oil out of the core. I think we're at the margin. We're at this point now where this idea of sticker shock starts to change behavior. We obviously are consuming less gasoline today than we were years ago, but the cumulative price point in a recession where we have 16% real unemployment, not just malarkey 8%, notice I use malarkey, is not working. And that is the point where these people can't suspend spending because they're spending everything they get. When they hit that inflection point, they start to spend less. And we know we're going to have 1% less GDP if we stay above $4 for, the next 6 months for sure.
Susan, what do you think? Where do you see inflation? Are you worried about it?
No, I'm in Gary's camp. I don't think it's that big a deal yet. We are seeing modest increases, but overall it's pretty moderate still. And if you look at the producer price index, which is the wholesale goods and their costs, that's actually been very moderate, and it's in some regions actually coming down in some areas. So, food has actually come down for the past 3 months in a row on the wholesale side. And so if you start to see too much of a break there and wholesale prices are coming down, but retail prices are going up, that's just price gouging.
Yeah,
that's not inflation.
But Susan, that's actually the point I'm trying to make, is that we're now at that point where the pass-throughs are going to start to hit, and those gasoline prices, the small business prices, they're going to have to start raising prices at a time where they really can't afford to do it because they have to keep their margin. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. Thank you for making it better than I did.
But it's really just on the gas piece. As Gary was saying, you're not really seeing it across the board, so that's not inflation. That's one particular industry, one commodity that you're
Well, but gas is used in transporting lots of different goods.
Well, and oil, too.
Yeah. But, Jonas, I want to get to you. Basically, you think that the simple law of supply and demand may come into play here, and that will take care of things?
Right, because we don't have a supply disruption. In fact, there's no real disruptions of any commodities at this point compared to even a few years ago. When consumers stop complaining about the high gas prices and actually start doing a lot about it, you're going to see the price collapse because they're going to actually put off driving things that are not commuting, or they're going to carpool or whatever. That hasn't really occurred in significant levels. Our fuel growth has been slow.
You're kidding me, Jonas. I can't believe this. You, Susan, and Gary B. are all completely wrong.
Wait, Todd.
Who cares about higher gas prices, higher food costs? Why do you think we have higher food costs?
But you don't know our history. Our 100-year inflation rate is higher than the current inflation rate, which, albeit, is higher than recent years. So you're saying the rate that is lower than the 100-year history of America is going to ruin America. Is that what you're saying?
So Joe Q. Public on Main Street. That's right. Let's go tell him, because he's just sporting out $6 for a gallon of milk, $2 more than he had to in December.
And the same price for the brand new iPad with all the cool screens as the one that came out a year ago. though. That's the thing you're missing.
And the iPad. Come on. That's a separate demographic, Jonas. You know that. Look, you have people right now in this country that can't even feed their families. You got 46 million Americans on food stamps right now.
You're not going to consider prices of things that people with money buy, but you're only going to talk about like the price of milk? There's other things in the basket. Home prices have not been going up radically.
Those are survival needs. You don't need an iPad.
Milk, don't you think?
You don't need an iPad to live, Jonas. You need food. You need staples. Those are the items that keep increasing.
Well, this idea that let's not get so obscure. How about just real world? When your physical costs go up $50 or $75 a week because of the physical products you have to buy to live, that comes out of the economy. I'm not saying this is Armageddon. What I am saying is that it not only slows our economy to a point where we're very weak, it brings another level of consumer anti-sentiment, dissentiment on buying, and all the good that we've generated over the next 6 months. We're at that precipice right now where we can slip backwards, and that's the scary part.
Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, what would you propose as the solution then? Because ordinarily, when you're starting to see inflation across the board, you want to see the Fed start to raise interest rates.
Right.
That's not something we can do right now. I mean, there's no way you can raise interest rates and not think it's going to have a contractionary effect. So, what gas prices, you can talk about the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, but what do you propose then? What are you going to do to bring milk prices down?
You can't start going back to this petroleum reserve because you need that for national defense. So that issue's out off the table. Second, though, you did have Chairman Ben Bernanke just this week actually was talking about right now about not doing any type of further easing. So therefore, he's actually trying to manipulate interest rates right now, trying to strengthen the dollar. Hopefully that brings costs down. But you and I, we all know this. Right. It's not going to keep costs down. They're just going to keep going up.
And of course, Bernanke is chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank, which sets short-term interest rates. Gary B., there was a good point made about housing, that housing prices are still down, even though rent is going up. What do you say to that?
Exactly. That makes the point that Jonas was trying to make, that there's a lot of things in the basket. Look, the odds of Jonas, me, and Susan all being wrong, as Todd points out, are zero. So that must mean Todd is wrong. That's the only mathematical conclusion that we could possibly come to. But yes, the other thing is that I think Todd is missing is, yes, look, what happens when gas prices go up is people adapt. They didn't have choices 30, 40 years ago. My father, when gas prices went up, I had to go fill the car because that was the only way he could do his job. There was no such thing as telecommuting. Mass transit wasn't as big as it is now. People have options. They adapt.
Well, Gary, but remember that the Small Business Association has done this, recent survey like a week and a half ago, and small businesses are supporting my point, which is that they're at the tipping point of raising prices because they can't absorb any more of these costs. Remember, it's not just gasoline; it's all the itinerant parts of transportation.
They're also talking about changing their hiring practices too. That the gas is hitting them so hard that they may not be hiring, and if that happens, that starts a spiral, doesn't it?
Well, it does. I mean, right. Gary's point is right. We use less gasoline in our economy than we did, but right now, with all the other costs high, the healthcare costs, the employment tax costs, et cetera, this is the one at the margin. Another 5%, and we will slow down.
Okay, last word, Todd.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Look, you cannot hit discretionary income, especially when you have so many families in America that are still continuing to struggle. And this is a so-called economic recovery that's taking place. Look, you're killing the discretionary income budget right now, Jonas. Because you're also trying to sell electronics. You're trying to sell somebody Radio Shack stuff when they should be putting food on their families' tables. And those are the costs that are going up. And I got to tell you guys, the bottom line for those companies will hit stocks as well.
Okay. All right. That's the final word. Thanks so much, guys.